Chapter 11. I quickly regained my composure. Since I was already in this predicament, I might as well bite the bullet and lie still, straight as a corpse. There was only one duvet. I didn't dare get too close to him, so the part I'd pulled over only covered my legs. The room was quiet again, but I couldn't sleep at all. I stared at the chandelier in the dark. The room temperature dropped as the night deepened, and the chill seeped in. Roman had his back to me, leaving a wide empty space between us. If I scooted over just a bit, the duvet would cover me. But I really didn't want to risk waking Roman again, so I curled up on my side, resigned to my fate. Trying to freeze to death. Roman suddenly spoke up. My heart sank. Just changing position wakes him up? He must be a ridiculously light sleeper. Roman's voice was husky. He lifted his head from the pillow, his short hair messy from being pressed down. He patted the space between us with a pained expression. Am I poisonous? Will leaning closer kill you? I shook my head. You're not poisonous, but you're sick. Roman's bleary eyes sharpened slightly. I wisely shut up, afraid he'd actually kick me out if I kept arguing. I stiffly crawled to a position where the duvet could properly cover me, not daring to cross the invisible line. As I lay back down, a strand of my hair brushed his face. When Roman pushed it away with his fingers, he unconsciously rubbed it between them. Aren't you going to dry your hair? He asked, puzzled. I told him the truth. I was going to, but you fell asleep. I didn't want to wake you. In the darkness, I heard him sigh painfully, followed by rustling. Roman sat up and turned on the bedside lamp. If you don't dry it, you'll get a headache. Since Roman was awake, I didn't refuse. I took the hair dryer in the lamplight, sat at the head of the bed, and started drying my hair. Roman stretched his legs out and leaned against the headboard, folding his arms and resting. The warm air blew through my hair and over our faces. We still didn't speak, but something seemed to thaw, placed under a sun lamp. The tension slowly melted away. The atmosphere softened. We were the author and editor who often butted heads in reality, yet here, in a dream, we found a strange understanding. If only Roman could be this considerate during manuscript revisions. As I thought this, I turned off the hair dryer and suddenly remembered the red figure I'd seen at the bar. Done. Roman cracked open his eyes, then stood up to turn off the light. Go to sleep then. Roman. I called out to him. Roman turned his head and looked at me lazily. I hesitated, then said, I think I saw Margaret on the ship today. Roman turned fully, lowered his head, and said, After all, this is a dream. Anything could happen. He looked up at me. Try not to leave my side on the ship. You know what the antagonist is for in these kinds of stories. I nodded. You fell for it last time on purpose. It was pure luck I found you. He looked at me intently. Don't put yourself in danger again. Last time I didn't know this was his dream. If I had, I wouldn't have dared, even with 8 lives. Reassured by my promise, Roman's expression relaxed. He turned and switched off the bedside lamp. I pushed my worries aside and finally fell asleep. When I opened my eyes the next day, I found us entangled in an embrace. A chill shot from my chest to my head. My scalp prickled. Probably because it was so cold last night, we'd gravitated towards each other for warmth. It didn't matter who started it. My head was nestled in the crook of his arm, and I was trapped. In this position, the slightest movement would wake him. My forehead rested against his chin. Lifting my head was incredibly difficult. I could only stare in horror at Roman's Adam's apple. Dare not move. Suddenly, the arm under my head shifted. Whoever woke up now would be mortified, so I decisively closed my eyes. Roman's arm must have gone numb from me using it as a pillow. He drew a pained breath and shifted his body, clearly waking up. Then I felt the body beneath my palm tense rigidly.
See?
I told you. Whoever wakes up is embarrassed. Roman was so embarrassed he seemed to stop breathing. He tried to extricate himself without waking me. It took Roman about a minute to carefully remove my arm from his waist. No matter what he did, I played possum, limp as a rag doll. When he finally got out of bed, I heard him let out a long, relieved sigh. I pricked up my ears, listening to him finish his bathroom routine before pretending to stir. Roman came out of the bathroom just as I was waking up. I feigned ignorance. "You're up early." He tried to maintain his usual composure, but his eyes still looked slightly unnatural. Roman had a heavy workload that day, meeting the investors Cale Voss had introduced. Since Clara Bennett supposedly knew one of them, I went with Roman. Also for safety. While chatting with the investors, I was deeply impressed by Roman. An editor was holding his own, discussing everything from stock indexes to AI investment. Seizing a moment, I whispered to him, "Don't you feel guilty bluffing them like this?" Roman glared back at me. "I didn't get my finance degree from a top university for nothing." "Then why on earth did you become an editor?" I grumbled, upset. "What other hidden talents do you have? Tell me, I can take it." I meant it as a joke, but Roman considered it seriously. "I even trained in martial arts for a few years." Then I didn't want to hear any more and excused myself to the restroom. We were discussing business on the deck. The nearest restroom was in the gym on the 10th floor. Few people worked out here during the day, though it got busier at night. Only a few people were on the treadmills. After I finished, a woman in workout clothes and a baseball cap walked in, brushed past me, and entered a stall. Her perfume smelled quite nice. I was washing my hands, analyzing the perfume's base notes, when I felt something was off. Who wears perfume to the gym? I looked up in shock and suddenly saw two figures reflected in the mirror behind me. The woman in workout clothes stood behind me at some point. She raised the corners of her lips in a smile. Her face was hidden under the cap's brim, only her chin visible. I watched as she raised the stun gun in her hand and, without hesitation, jabbed it into the back of my neck.